What's happening, fam? L.A.R movement still moving. Subscribe or die trying. You see the thumbnail. Uh, Cost of living versus Black America. Some people call it COLA, right? Cost of living average. So I'm reading this article about home prices in Houston, right? How basically the average price has skyrocketed to 300,000, and that's because the market has got scarce. You say that, so a lot of people are buying a lot of homes, and people are moving from a lot of different places because the homes in Texas are more affordable than places like California, Miami, Chicago, New York, right? And I started thinking about it like, this summer, the prices of gas and whatnot go up. And you start looking around and you start noticing that gentrification is used to be in your city, but now it's basically a national thing where people are running you out of a state because the cost of living keeps rising, and we don't own, property like that. So you move from one state to another, and I know people who lived like in California who came to Texas years ago, and they were able to own their homes because they had already owned their homes. You get what I'm saying? Or they used the money, whatever the profit was from selling their home was what they actually they could just purchase a home with that. You know what I'm saying? If the house was, they purchased the house for 600,000, they sold it for 750, 800. They could just come to Texas and buy a house with that money. But then I started thinking, like, because of this rising cost of living, like, people are not paying attention to how there are far more renters than owners. And, I was talking to some people in my neighborhood, and I didn't even know this about my neighborhood. They were talking, they're like, it's a lot of renters here. It's not a lot of owners. And I've been living here for like 15 years. So, people have no idea about what's going on in our community, to the point where we're basically gentrifying ourselves, because with the rising cost of living, now you can't afford to own anything. And as much as people talk about legacy and passing something down to the next generation, you won't have anything to pass because you're going to get slowly bled dry until your last days. And I find it interesting because if the price has gotten that high in Houston, just for a starting price, compared to other places, like I would always tell people, a good place to live is Houston, Austin, Dallas, Atlanta, Charlotte. Cost of living, you know what I mean? Tennessee. But now it's like, those places going up. Those places are going up. Now, if you're working for NASA or something like that, you could go to Alabama, But everybody else is kind of stuck. And people are leaving Chicago because, I had those conversations with my folks out there. They gone. They used to migrate a lot to Atlanta. Now they just going. They going to Dallas, Fort Worth, Atlanta, still Atlanta, but Charlotte and stuff like that. But now it's getting bad. And where are we gonna go? Where can we afford to go at this point? Is the question. People will go from L.A. to Vegas. I think the cost of living in Vegas is getting higher and higher. So even if you leave L.A., can you afford Vegas? So when they had that old article about our family's net worth being zero by 2053, it's the best of times and it's the worst of times, because you can figure out a way to get where you need to be, but at the same time, it's like, we're going to have a problem. We're going to have a big, big problem. Because what's going to wind up happening is we're not going to have a place to lay our heads if we don't own anything. And people are really yanking ownership out of us, and it's changing the economy. Can you can you be can you have a stable enough income to pay something off over a long period of time? So at the end of the day, the cost of living is gonna kick our butts, because basically, just in general in America, people are making just enough money to pay their bills, because of the cost of living keeps rising and rising and rising. So people are making just enough money to pay their bills, and then you seeing people come together, like, roommates and families come together again, and people are pooling their resources just enough to pay their bills. Because when you're on your feet and you're ready to get out, unfortunately, what's going to happen is you might not be able to afford to be out on your own for more than 2 years. So we're gonna pay for that, man. We're gonna pay for that. So if we don't do anything about it now, the future could be bleak, for real. So that's my thoughts on this. Like, share, subscribe, or die trying. Peace.